Welcome to the No Fear podcast and the No Fear live broadcast. I'm your host, Coach Blauer. If you're into mindset training, performance psychology, personal development, you'll dig this new format. No Fear Live is a unique broadcast, and it's different from the No Fear podcast. We decided to go live because we wanted to create the opportunity to interact with people like you all over the world, where anyone can log in and ask questions, and in some cases, you may even get invited into the show. The great thing about the live broadcast is that it's much more personal for the listener. That's you. Remember, self-defense isn't always about a confrontation with someone else. The first and most important fight is winning the one inside your head. Hey guys, it's me, and I am alone right now. Although I got Elisa in the background, and we've got some videos to show you. I think Jeff is having some technical difficulties. Oh, he just logged in here. This is great. Hang on a second, dude. Are you there?
There we go. Can you hear me? I can see me.
Nice. Did you take your tooth out just to prove you're a hockey player right now?
No, I actually I don't have a permanent one in, man. I had one. I had 3 different ones in my last couple of years playing that kept getting knocked out. So finally I was like, fuck it, I'm riding dirty.
Right? Or is it just you did a Sharpie on the tooth there? Is it really missing? Dude, it's so good to how are we doing there? You can hear me?
I can hear you through my computer.
Okay.
I'm trying to get the audio. I've never used this
Set up a little louder.
Do you know where the audio button is by any chance for if you're using a microphone?
No, that would be software on your side.
Here it goes, settings. Okay, audio right here. MacBook speakers. Sure. Okay, got it.
There you go.
Boom. I sound good.
Are you? Yeah, you're fine. Are you? Is that your gym? Is that where you
teach
at?
Yeah. This is my gym. I have my first group today for off season. The youngest group I train that's still in St. Louis right now. So I just figured I would do it from here instead of my home office.
Yeah. Are you? Are you based in St. Louis?
Yes. Yeah, I'm in St. Louis.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. It's awesome to meet you, man. You're a fucking legend.
Go on, tell me more.
I love everything you do, man. I love watching it all. I love seeing it all.
How did we originally connect? Your audio's fine on my side.
Okay. Honestly, I don't even remember. I don't even know. I think just like randomly I saw you liked one of my posts or something, and then we started talking, shot me a DM, and I was like, wow, I don't even know how this happened, but this is cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of like most of my podcasts are with people who, teach hand to hand or teach gunfighting or knife fighting. And so this is kind of like, what's he doing? He's interviewing a hockey guy.
Yeah.
What's funny is I'm with the whole no fear thing behind, like the essence of no fear. And it's really funny is just getting a bite to eat just before. And my father-in-law was asking me about the origin of no fear. The whole no fear thing is like, was it inspired by somebody, whatever? And I said, like, and my wife Jess made a joke. She says, don't you listen to any of his podcasts? It's like, it was my fear, my whole fear, my whole life as an athlete. I was always one of the best athletes on whatever team. I gravitated towards solo sports because in my mind, I wanted to be wholly responsible for whether we won or lost. We being me.
Yeah.
So I was playing, tennis, gymnastics, wrestling, whatever, even though I was on teams. But I've always had fear as an athlete, letting down the coach, letting down the team, and that kind of evolved into the no fear thing. And then the natural, my fascination with self-defense was you can't win a fight if you can't manage your fear.
Right.
And so I'm going to magically connect that to you because one of the things, like I follow a lot of different athletes and working protocols, but so why am I inviting Jeff LoVecchio on my thing? You're obviously a very good athlete, very disciplined athlete. You made it to of all the thousands of hockey players in the world, you made it onto professional teams. And we'll talk about your history and your background in a little bit. But when I started following you, I loved your message that it wasn't just, I'm going to just brag about you for a second, and then I'll ask you some questions and then you can talk. Like I sent your profile to a bunch of friends, including my son, who's 32, who's a coach trying to make it in LA, which is tough any time of the year, but especially during COVID. Because there's an energy about what you do. It's not just the fitness, and it's not just so for I guess the first question for you is really talk about, is there something that you think about or do before you prep a class, and how you think about the athletes? Because everyone's doing the moves.
Yep.
But there's something different that's a little contagious in what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, all of my clients believe me. They know that I lived everything that I try and get them to do, and everything I try to get them to understand. My whole thing is, like, I wasn't naturally as gifted as a lot of the guys I played with or against, but I still had a pretty good career, and I gave myself a chance playing at the very highest level you possibly can in the world, because I gave everything I had in every way I could. And so everyone knows that about me. Like, anybody who comes into my gym, they know it right away, because they won't be in my gym long if they don't take up that kind of lifestyle, that kind of mantra. Luckily, I'm at a point now where I get to kind of choose who I work with, who works in my gym with me. And so it's just expected on day one. And when I train younger kids, I have to teach them that stuff, obviously. But the first thing we do to start every session, after like some warm-up stuff, is I lay everybody on their back, I play some relaxing songs, and I take them through a quick guided visualization. So in my gym, might be able to see it here from where I got a huge sign up there on the wall. It says, "What is your why?" And so when guys, before, all day long, I'm pointing to the sign. Look at the sign, look at the sign, look at the sign. Remind yourself, why are you here? Because there's a massive difference for anyone doing anything between going through the motions and doing anything with intention. And I learned that through my own career, that I watched guys give 9 out of 10 and I was giving 10 out of 10. And that's why I was able to leapfrog over guys, or get jobs over guys, or play longer over guys who were better than me. It was, I would always get 10 out of 10 out of everything I did. And that's what's going to separate you at the higher levels.
Was that something you were mentored, or you just are a unicorn? Did you always know that?
It was a couple things. One, my dad's an entrepreneur, and I watched him grind. Started his own business. Like, he just grinded really hard. Like, go out of town all week long. And I remember, I'd get up on Saturday morning and he'd be outside, doing every chore he possibly needed to do, and turn around, barely sleep, go back out of town again. And it was just like, man, like, other people would have relaxed. Like, no, not him. It's like, I will get everything done I need to. So the number one thing was, my dad, and my mom was the same. She took care of my sister and I, and she got us everywhere. Like, unbelievable. I was very lucky. I have unbelievable parents. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was, I realized at a young age, I wasn't good enough, like, to just like do what everyone else was doing. It was like, my parents were like, if you want to be good, like, you got to do more. Like, you literally, you need to do more. My dad's only advice my entire hockey career: hard work, patience, more hard work. That's all he ever said to me. And so I lived that, and I just started seeing at a young age in 7th grade, when I really got serious. I just started seeing that when I did a little bit more and a little bit smarter and a little bit harder, I just started getting better than guys. So that's my life mantra, and that's what I pass on to everyone who works with me, whether it's in person or online.
Is that the inspiration behind your GMBM?
Yeah, it stands for Give More, Be More. I was actually, the first year I was retired from playing, I was with a different supplement company. I'm a first form athlete now, but I was with a different supplement company, and they flew me out to Arizona. And my flight was like the only flight canceled out of like these 3,000 people that were at this conference.
Right.
And I'm sitting at this like business park oasis that I found in the middle of whatever city I was in. And I just sat there, and was thinking about my life and reflecting. The conference was really powerful. There was a lot of people there giving off so much good energy. And I think I've always been that way, but I was like, I can give more. I can give
Right.
more to everyone else. I can give more to my family. I can give more to my clients. And then just like reflecting on my own life, every time I've given more to anything, hockey, school, relationships, I also always become more. I get more out of it. And so I looked up the closest tattoo shop. I walked,
Huh.
a couple miles, got it tattooed on me. And, like 6 months later, a clothing company approached me and said, "Hey, we want to send you some stuff. We love your message." They were some veterans. I love working with veterans. And, I've had that clothing line now for a couple years, and it's just kind of taken off.
I dig it and I love it. It's funny. I was thinking while you were talking about your dad and your mom, it's interesting because there are a lot of kids that would resent their dad for not being there,
Right.
um,
Right.
and for grinding like that. And it's interesting that you saw it and somehow internalized it as, hey, there's something positive about grit and commitment and busting your butt.
Right. And it's not like he was gone all the time. When I was younger, he traveled a lot more. As I got older, he traveled a little bit less. But also, I also was able to see, because like I don't know how much you know about hockey. It's expensive and it's very time consuming. And so like because he was an entrepreneur, he set his own schedule. He could work when he wanted, take off when he wanted. So I also got to see that, yeah, okay, like he's worked 5 weeks in a row, grinding so hard, but he also got to take 2 weeks off and go with me to Canada or go with me to Europe to watch me play or this or that. So I
Wow,
also
great.
got to see the fruits of what he did. And it's not like my family's rich by any means, but like, we didn't want or need for anything. We had a
Right.
great life growing up. So I got to see kind of both sides of that. And when they just instilled in me, like in my hockey career, if you give more, you're going to be more. Um, I've just applied that to other things in my life, and it's just like it works the exact same way. Sports, life, business, relationships, doesn't matter what it is. Like if I just try, and my thing is add value. AAV, always add value to every person I come across, every conversation. It doesn't matter what it is. I want to be a value add to anybody I talk to.
Is that something that is the best way to phrase this? Is it a mantra that you say to yourself, or you find like now your second career is taken off, right?
Right.
And maybe even like 3.0 is speaking, not just the training. So
Yeah.
you're like that started to happen. I'm noticing more and more. I think when I first asked you to if you'd be interested in coming on No Fear Live, and you said yeah, you weren't doing a lot of podcasts, and at the time I didn't see a lot being posted.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it just blew up, and I was like, oh fuck, wow, look at this. But it was all it. It was all the stuff I wanted to talk to you about like the mindset and the speaking and the presence and all that.
Yeah, so I was a captain starting seventh grade. So like sixth grade was my first year of AAA hockey. That's the highest level you can play, and I was the worst player on the team. I played the least amount. I barely played. My parents were like, "Well, if you want this, go talk to the coach. We don't call coaches. You go talk to the coach."
Hmm.
So like they made me do all these things. They made me take responsibility. I remember when I was like the year before, I was in fifth grade. I was a good student, and because I was a good student, they knew that when I got this one bad grade, it was literally because I was being lazy. It wasn't because I wasn't smart enough. It was literally because I was being lazy. So they made me sit out a game, and they made me tell all the parents and players why I wasn't playing in that game, like in front of everybody in fifth grade. Hey guys, I'm not allowed to play in this game because I slacked on my homework and I got a bad grade, that type of thing. And that sucked when I was in fifth grade. I thought it was the worst thing ever saying that, not being able to play. But like
Right.
that just like beat that responsibility in me, and from then it's just I started being a leader after that bad year that I had because I put the work in. And from seventh grade on, I just put myself in front of every team. It was like, I'm going to be a leader in here. I'm going to force myself to do more and bring others with me because I want my team to be better. And also I realized that if I start calling other guys out, I better be backing it up. Like I better be doing what I'm telling them I want them to do. And so that also kind of pushes me even further. It pushes me harder. It keeps me on the tracks, you know?
So cool. I think I want to hang up with you and get on a call with your parents.
Yeah. I mean, they're awesome.
No, but I'll tell you that, man, like, I mean, on most lists, the number one fear for people is public speaking, not getting dragged to a secondary crime scene, raped and murdered. You know,
Yeah.
it's like public speaking. That idea of, hey, we don't call coaches. You want to do something, go talk. You go talk to the teacher. You put yourself out there. Because there was Lisa who works behind the scenes, helping put the show together. She sent me a clip of yours that was fantastic. You were talking to a bunch of hockey players getting ready for some stuff, but you talked about the idea of standing up and looking people in the eyes and a firm handshake. And I remember, like, I was like, I wanted to ask you, and I just did. I go, where did Jeff get that from? Because that's an extension of the whole, of the whole mantra of your, give more, be more. Because I remember, one guy is one of our top coaches now, this guy Adrian, who he's in the Army, he's a professional stuntman, he's worked on like massive, like, A-list films, martial artist for years, skydive, parkour, like a stud.
Yeah.
And several years ago, we're doing one of our combatives camps in Vegas. And one of my coaches says, this guy, Rick, he pulls me aside. He goes, Adrian's really good. You should give him a shot, man. This guy moves really well. And I looked at Rick. I go, which one's Adrian again? Like, here's a guy that's like, he's like part unicorn. Which one's Adrian again? Because that guy there. I go, I've never seen him fucking move or teach. Like, is he a ninja? I know he's here. I know I've seen him, but I've never seen him do anything. And I said to Rick, have him fucking teach something. Because I had a team with me, right?
Okay.
And next thing I know, he goes, okay, everyone together. Like, there's 80 people at this camp. He goes, Adrian and then Bill are going to, start. And Adrian starts teaching, and it was like angel sounds. Oh. And I'm like, I walked up to him after. I go, dude, fuck. I had no idea what you knew or who you were because you were so polite. You stayed in the back.
Right.
And maybe he's a sniper and he just doesn't want to be seen. But I guess what I'm saying is, if you want to be, and this isn't about the ego of being noticed, but if you believe in yourself, and this is part of your message, right? Because you love hockey, and I want to talk about the, your program, because while you'll train anybody if you want, like, you've got a real bias on the hockey.
Mostly hockey in person. Yeah.
Yeah. But the end of the day is, like, whatever role you play in life, there's a moment where you need to be noticed. It could be a date, it could be a bank loan, it could be entrepreneur, it could be, and how you're communicating with somebody. And just that lesson that your parents taught you is like, hey, I'm not going to call her and ask you for a date. I'm not going to call, this therapist and say, my son needs to talk to somebody.
Yeah. And I think it's massive. And that little lesson, it's a lot. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard when you're a little kid, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, whatever it is. Hockey's all you think about. It's all you want to do. And you have to go talk to the coach about, like, why you're not playing. That's a hard lesson. But what's harder if you zoom out from a 10-foot view to a 10,000-foot view? Do you want your kid not to be able to go in and talk to their boss? Do you want your kid not to be able to go in and talk to their college professor when they're having a problem, in class and they can't figure something out? No. But if you're the one who's always talking to the coach, you're robbing your kid of that life skill. And unfortunately, I don't know how much you dabble in youth sports. The professionalization of youth sports has unfortunately kind of rotted everything that I think youth sports were about. And the reason why parents put their kids in youth sports was to teach all these life lessons and how to be a good leader, a good follower, a good teammate, giving more to something, anything, like how to dedicate yourself, how to pick yourself up after a loss or after a bad game or after an injury. All these life lessons that sports can teach our kids. And unfortunately, parents are just going like crazy now. And it's we got to get back to that stuff. Like, what's the main goal of this? Because less than 1% of all kids in all sports are going to ever get paid to play,
Yeah.
So
that's a huge message, and hopefully you get it out more. And then again, through, getting on as many podcasts as you can and getting that message out there. It's huge, because I think about so many of the things that I've accomplished in my career are because you could look at it as like, oh my God, how did you have the confidence to go talk to that person? Because whatever door I opened, there was trepidation and fear. The fear loop is there. It's like, oh shit. And one thing that I was thinking about, if you don't go talk to your coach, this is like a parallel thought. I'll come back to the other thing. If you can't talk to your coach and you develop a codependent relationship with somebody else doing it for you, like you said, the 10,000 becomes 20,000, becomes 30,000. That's going to be how you parent. That's going to be how you deal with your spouse. That's going to be how you deal with. It's a huge lesson. And also, if you are the 1%, or might be, right? Like you said, you weren't as gifted as other people, but like I know this: if I see somebody on my team who's always doing more, who's there early, stays late, always doing more, I'm not even looking at the fact that they were a little bit off balance when they did that kick there. I like this person because I like their work ethic.
Absolutely. And coaches, bosses, whoever, they're going to give that person, if it comes down to firing day, and there's two people, and it's between you, who's always early, always late, always doing a little bit extra, always trying to add value, and somebody else who does none of those things, but your metrics are the same. However they're grading you, they're always going to take this person, always.
The relationship,
and it's that those are lessons that sports can teach. And for me, because sports aren't teaching them as much, luckily a lot of my guys get that stuff because I only work with like the elite guys. But it's something I hammer home in here every single day. Every day. I don't care what you did yesterday. I don't care, how many goals you scored last season, because it's over. What are you doing right now to better your future self? Like, that's all I care about. Are
there, like, it pisses me off because, I created a program called No Fear Coaches. We'll talk about it another time, and another program called No Fear Family. And in it is this idea of, this is so personal to me because I grew up in Canada. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I grew up in Canada, and you're either a skier or a skater, and I came from a skiing family.
Yeah.
And so I was a competitive skier, and I started skiing like 3. You started hockey when you were 2.
Yep.
And when I was like 13, there were people going like, if Tony continues on this trajectory, maybe he goes to the Olympics. I mean, he's like a serious skier. Like he's like, but I never got on the podium. I always wiped out. I always caught a tip. I always skied off. So some people in the psychological circles will go, oh, you suffered from self-sabotage. And I go, well, but I always showed up. I crushed it in practice. I just couldn't do something. And if you asked me, like before a race where you were at, like if you saw me walking around and everything, you wouldn't go, this guy's scared, this guy's nervous. But my mindset during the whole thing was, and I summed it up in this one word or one sentence. If I'm so good, why am I so scared? Nobody had ever explained to me the butterflies, the sweaty palms, the pre-event jitters. No coach, mentor, or family member had ever said, "What are you feeling? What are you thinking?" And consider this. So I guess one thing that I want to ask you specific to that is, and I'll say the line again for people listening. A lot of people who follow our messaging have heard me talk about this, because to me, a coach is only about inspiring performance. Trainers teach technique and movement, and most coaches are really just trainers. They don't know how to inspire performance, but everyone calls themselves a coach.
Yeah.
And that's subtle. You everything the part that excites me about your life and what you're doing is you're coaching, but then you're also saying, hey guys, I want your knee over your toe like this. I want you on the slant board. You want to look at this mobility shit. You're a trainer, but you're also a coach, and that's rare. Talk to me about whatever you want, but talk to me about fear growing up and performing, and what type of mentoring or coaching you had around that, because that fucked up my career.
Yeah, you know what? It's so interesting, because I was a little bit similar when I was younger. I would crush practice, and I was really nervous in games, like really nervous, to the point where it would affect my play sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And actually, this is also a reason why I am the way I am. When I was 18 years old, I was playing junior hockey in Omaha, Nebraska. And right before the season started, the high school guys who were in town, they were already there. And I actually got in a car accident with one of my teammates. We jumped on the trunk of a car. Our other buddy, our teammate, jumped in and hit the gas a little too hard. And split-second decision. I dug my fingers in, like where the trunk meets the car, where there's that like little sliver. I dug my fingers in. I almost fell off, and he jumped off. And he smacked his head really hard, and he wound up dying. He wound up passing away.
Jesus.
Pretty much in my hands. Like I was holding his head so it wouldn't hit the concrete and all this stuff. But the reason that was such a pivotal point in my life, number one, that teammate, we were teammates the year before. We were pretty good friends, and he always talked about that he was going to die before 30. Always, like all the time. He was always saying it. I'm not going to make 30. I'm not going to make it 30. And sure enough, he died when he was 19 years old on my 18th birthday, actually. So one, like law of attraction, I was aware of it when I was 18 years old, because like, man, it's so weird that he always said that. And so they brought in the sports psychologist who was like I think he was the Cornhuskers football sports psychologist. Sports psychology wasn't very big yet. Like it wasn't being talked about. They brought him in to talk to the guys who were at the accident. I was having a lot of trouble sleeping, kind of like some PTSD stuff. I kept seeing it over and over. And he gave me this CD. And on the CD, there were 6 tracks. The last track was a track to help me fall asleep. It was kind of like hypnosis, visualization, diaphragmatic breathing, all these things. But the first 5 tracks were tracks that were peak performance, right? And so I started listening for every game, and I started playing so much better because of visualization. I was putting myself in these situations repeatedly before the game, so that when I got to the game, it was like I've already been here before, and you didn't have that kind of lag, that 1 second like of thought. It was just like I had already seen myself in these situations, so I was just that much quicker. So I got into sports psychology at 18, and that really helped me with exactly what you're talking about. Kind of you're dominating practice, but you can't do it all the time in competitions or games. So sports psychology was something that really, really helped me with that. And so now in the gym, just because of like who I am and how much sports psychology, I did so many things that people used to look at me 10, 15, 20 years ago. And they're like, what the hell is Vex doing before games? But it worked. Again, I wasn't good enough to not do that stuff. Right. So I did it, and allowed me to be at the levels I was able to play at with guys better than me. But now I just do that stuff in the gym for my guys every single day. and I make them understand. Cause like,
Wow.
you know, like this first group I have, I think the youngest kid I have is 15 or 16 and it'll go up to like 18. So they're still in that age where like working hard, you know, some of their friends might not think it's cool to like work as hard as they do or to visualize or meditate or anything. And I just get in their heads all the time. I'm like, no,
Right.
you're not cool if you don't do everything you can, because you never want to look back when you're 40 and be like, damn, why didn't I do this? Like Jeff said, or why didn't I eat better? Or why didn't I sleep better? Why didn't I listen to him about breathing? You know? So like, that's why I'm so intense on this stuff, because I don't want any of my guys or anyone in the world to have regret. I think it's the worst thing ever.
That's wild. And I love that message. And,
Was there sports psychology when you were growing up with the skiing? Like, not really
no,
yet?
no, not at all. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how old I am, man.
Like, do you teach? You look young. You look younger than that. So hell yeah.
Thank you. Are you hitting on me?
Yeah, I got a fiance, bro. I'm good.
Okay.
Do you teach visualization with like fighting? Is that something guys do to like visualize what you're gonna do? And is that something?
I do some very, very interesting creative stuff. And I teach 4 times a week live on Zoom now. But we've always done very cool, innovative drills. In fact, in the 80s, there was a guy I met. I don't know if it was through self-defense or whatever, but he happened to be a sports psychologist, which was really rare then. And he introduced me to the concept of metacognition, which paraphrases like, how do you think about thinking? And I was always nerdy into like Zen-y stuff and you know, being a Bruce Lee junkie like every martial artist was, and Bruce Lee was into Zen and Alan Watts and things like that. And some of it was trendy and cool, but every so often, you know, you'd read something like Alan Watts said, if you can't meditate in a boiler room, you just can't meditate. And you'd hear that and you go, what the fuck does that mean? Because everyone meditates in, like, when you meditate at your gym, maybe you close the lights, everyone's quiet, you tell everyone. But if they can't get into the zone in a screaming arena with fans booing them, then maybe the meditation. So the boiler room was like take your guys out one day to meditate at a children's bounce house where
Yeah,
birthday party screaming and
right.
going. But the idea is, like, I started going like, wow, you know, you don't have time to get ready for a sudden ambush. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we include a lot of visualization, but not in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
But we explain it that if I practice something in my mind enough, there's enough research out there, some famous studies, the basketball study and all this, that
I use that all the time in my speeches.
You know, and so you go, well, if this group that never touched a basketball can improve within 1% of the group that did, then visualization's a thing.
That might be the biggest revelation I've ever learned, that like what came out of that study. And like, I don't remember when that study was. I mean, it was a while ago, but it wasn't that long ago, I believe.
I think it was the 80s or 90s.
Okay, so it was. So I was using that when I was playing, like to tell people like, why am I doing this stuff? And
Right.
That was the reason. And like, I'm telling you, I scored so many goals when I started playing over in Europe, overseas. After I had 14 concussions in my career, unfortunately. You know, really changed kind of the trajectory of my career.
Fights or big hits into the glass?
Mainly like hits, like, or pucks to the face. I had a couple. I had my lip, slap shot knocked me out, split my lip open. The one that hit me here. Yeah, I had a couple. I had one where I got elbowed to the back of the head. I didn't see coming. Like, there's just a bunch where I couldn't really do anything. It wasn't like it was something I did wrong. Like, I couldn't see the puck coming 80 miles an hour that was going to hit me in the face. So I had a couple from fights, but yeah, when I started visualizing, man, everything changed. The game came so much easier to me. And I've trained thousands of athletes now over the last 11 years, going on 12, and they all say the same thing. Like, it's a massive game changer once they start to kind of feel the rhythm of it.
Did you ever on a similar topic, but a pivot? I watched a sports documentary, and one of the people they interviewed was somebody you probably never heard of him, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
And he talked about an exercise that he intuited, where if this was, he'd have a piece of paper, and he had did you ever see this documentary where he talked about?
Are you talking about where the puck was all the time?
Yeah, and he would watch the game and he would draw almost like Etch-a-Sketch.
Yep.
But what he was doing, like I look at that as he was creating an additional metacognitive link between what he was visualizing and what he could see on the ice, and then he was like the neural patterns and this like really esoteric. Probably neuroscience can't even explain what he was doing in the truest sense. But what I tell people when we do visualization in self-defense, we do everything from energetically, what did you feel? Every victim of violence who lived to tell the tale said they had a bad feeling before the attack. So the first bad feeling starts with, or the first pre-contact cue is like, I got a bad feeling about this place or this person or this thing. If you don't start to think strategically there, you're getting closer to the fucking kill zone.
Right.
And so what I look at with the Gretzky thing is him doing that and then looking down and seeing it and going, okay. And what he was doing, was, of course, this, but for everyone listening, he was drawing on the paper the movement of the hockey player moving the puck, passing the puck. And the connection he was making was he was programming in his brain, like artificial intelligence, but 40 years before AI, where this player liked to move, how this player liked to skate, how this player liked to pass. And I remember that sports psychologist in the 80s was talking about Gretzky. He said, if you watch Gretzky on the bench sipping water, he says the other players, this is very subtle. I don't know if you ever heard this. Oh. He says the other players would be like this, like looking down. Looking like this. You ever see this on the bench? Hey, did you get laid last night? Hey, last night, right?
That's probably what they were saying.
Right? But Gretzky would always be like this, head up, drinking like this. He never took his eyes off the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the idea was he was always, what he was doing on the paper, he was doing on the game. So here's what I tell my most of the people listening to this, hopefully they're being inspired by you, but most of you listening to this are into the self-defense, martial art, combatives, DT side, because that's obviously where my biggest audience is. But you've all heard me say, if you improve your perception speed, you improve your reaction time. If you want to be a fucking faster athlete, it's not fast twitch muscle fibers and running. That's a small part of it. It's, can you improve your mind speed? How do you improve how quickly you think? Process of stimulus, refractory delay between stimulus response. It's all mind speed and all these little things. So we do all that shit. We have our own version of the Gretzky game. We do whiteboard shit. What would you do here and all that? But it's this line. And it's the same thing. If you can get your athletes to improve their perception speed before they're on the ice, they can improve their reaction time. So they're already intercepting a like that pass three strides before, because they know what this player is going to do.
Exactly.
Their anticipatory cells are fucking so dialed in.
And I'm sure I would assume it's got to be the same with fighters, but the best athletes in any sport have the best anticipatory skills. Like you said, they can anticipate things. Like they're moving before anybody else knows where the ball is going, where the puck is going. Right. They're already on their way there. Like they think things like a second faster. And a second doesn't seem like a lot. If you're in a fight, that's a whole lot of time.
It's a lot. So when people ask me to explain how to develop this, and I want to bring this back to kind of your life story where you went, like, I didn't have the gifts that other athletes had, so I had to work harder. So when you look at, let's say, a Muhammad Ali or a John Jones or like whoever your favorite fighter is, and they're moving differently than you, or they're reading things, and some people are fucking unicorns, and you can't, everyone understood Mike Tyson's TikTok, but nobody was able to replicate it and become heavyweight champion. And so it was something that Cus D'Amato developed just for Tyson, based on Tyson's psychology, his body type, and all that stuff. And so even though people knew what it was, almost nobody could beat him, and nobody took that and turned it into a style like there are martial arts styles. So what I want to say to all the people listening here, we call this the 3 I's: instincts, intuition, and intelligence. That when you start doing other things, like you should be doing, I just had my buddy Marco Lala, an OG martial arts guy, on the show last week, and he said in the 80s, he was big on conditioning as a martial artist, and one of his lines was, "You can't fake endurance." And I always fucking loved that, right? Because like you think about Lombardi's greatest, well, he's got a great quotes, but his fatigue makes cowards of us all. I can say, "Jeff, I'll get you on the ice and I'll skate circles around you and this and that." But when my legs are tired and they weigh 50 pounds, or I'm scared and your legs feel like they weigh 50 pounds, you can't fake stamina and endurance, motherfucker.
100%. That's so true. Wow, I love that. You can't fake endurance. That's a great quote.
It's epic. But so guys, everyone's doing that. Jeff's doing that with all his athletes, doing like crazy disciplined conditioning and new shit. Like I look at now some of the stuff that you guys are doing. You started working with the body flow stuff and moving around.
Yeah.
And you had to be thinking, fuck, if I had been doing this 20 years ago.
Oh God, I think
injuries,
about that.
Back pain, knees.
Every off season there, every time I learn something new and I'm starting to apply it, I'm like, God, you guys have no idea how good I would have been if I'd have been doing this.
Right.
Like the training that I did hurt my body. Like it helped, obviously, but it also hurt at a maybe like a paralleled level. Whereas if I'd have been training smarter and just in, I've been on your website and I've watched a ton of your videos, and I dove deep into your Instagram, like when we first started talking, and, similar mindset, like it's, you could train a fighter and lift weights only, and they're going to get stronger, but does like that fully translate to fighting? Like, no, like it doesn't fully translate. So is there a better way? And you're a guy who's like constantly looking for a better way. And that's right. Me. Like, how can I get 1% more better? How can I get 1% more better in all these different areas? And for me, it's thinking outside the box, trial and error, trying things. It's super important to get uncomfortable.
Yeah. There was one line I heard that, I don't know, it was sometime in the 80s when I first heard it. It was "The mind navigates the body." And there was something very profound in it, even though I didn't fully understand it, but I understood it enough that, here are years later, and like everything we do starts with understanding how I think affects how I feel affects how I think, both influence how and when I move. That's kind of spiritual, metaphysical. But then we go, hey, the mind navigates the body at a neuroscience level. The way you educate your neurons, the signal speed, is going to determine whether you practice properly or not. So like you said, the guy that's 1 second faster in decision making, he's the guy that hit that check or got the breakaway, or the goalie that cut the angle because he's reading all these other nuances. Guys, I can't. If you're listening to probably the most important message from Jeff, is it's actually part of your. It's hidden inside of your mantra, just your T-shirt, your apparel line of "Give more, be more." It's also squeezing that little bit more out of your brain, your capacity. And how do you educate anticipatory cells? How do you improve your perception speed? And you, as an athlete and as a business person, as a father, as a mother, you got to be asking those questions, right? All the time.
And it's a lot of just doing things with intention. Like, I'm not a big fan of people who say 110%. For me, I'm like, that's not a thing. There's 100. And a lot of people say 100, and because you can't get more than 100.
Right.
It's like you can't go more than infinity. You can't do infinity times 1. No, there's only infinity. There's only 100. And the thing is, most people, they don't have the mental fortitude to get anywhere near their 100. So when they have a great performance, even they think that's their 100. It's like, well, that's actually even your 90. Like you're living at 80 or you're living at 70. So when you hit 80 or 90, you're like, oh my God, I have this crazy thing. It's like, well, no, you just played like how you could. It doesn't mean you always do. And so for me, the literally the biggest difference in everything in life that I witness, sports, training, mindset, business, life, it's intention. It's intention. 100% intention will get you more results. And I can't believe that you said you love that phrase, because my phrase that I use is the exact same, slightly different wording. I say, where the mind goes, energy flows. You know, if it's positive, it's going to be positive. If it's 100, you're going to go 100. But if it's not, you're definitely not, and you're not going to get the most out of it. You know,
That's fascinating, and it's funny because while you were explaining that, like there are so many little maxims and concepts and thoughts that we use that are like almost like, you know, if we were Siamese twins creating a program, but I was going, hey man, we're attached here, we're going to create a fighting program, and you go, I like hockey, fuck you. Yeah, but there's fighting in hockey, maybe we could come together. Speaking of which, really really funny, in the 80s I got contacted by one of the coaches from the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he wanted me to, that was like the 70s and 80s was the Boston, Montreal, like that was the golden era.
Yeah, one of my coaches played for Boston.
Right. Yeah. And so but he wanted me to, I was always I wasn't a street fighter. I wasn't like, you know, I was like about avoidance and de-escalation, and we trained hard because I never wanted to lose, but we weren't one of the knuckle dragging, let's go, like all of that. I just saw, and I'm not going to mention the name because they're pretty famous and well known, but it was like a video of them doing a self-defense thing. And I remember I watched it twice. I watched it 3 times. And it was pretty good what they're doing, but the energy was so dark and negative. I was like, I don't even want to be around that. I don't want to share it on my story, because it was just this. It was like the Cobra Kai in Karate Kid,
right?
But not like a kids movie. It was like,
right.
This is how these guys really think and live. Anyways, I digress. So the one of the coaches from the Canadiens says, hey, we heard about you from one of their strength coaches who knew of me. And he said, we want to send a couple of guys to learn how to fight. And I said, I got to think about that. And this is like the Canadians calling me, right?
Yeah, big time.
I was morally, ethically, like there was an affront, man, because I was like, I don't want to teach guys how to fight, because if I teach them to fight, they're going to fuck somebody up. And I don't want to fuck up another athlete. And I understand guys get in a fight. And they called me again, and we had a talk, and they said, well, what's your hesitation? Like, we're like, it's the Montreal Canadiens calling you. And I said, it feels dirty. It feels wrong. And he said, look, you know, and he explained to me very politely, and you'll have a good laugh at this. He says, like, these guys aren't on the team to score goals. They're not that good.
Nope.
They're there to draw penalties. And I was like, that's their job, is to get into fights. So if you don't want to help us, we'll go somewhere else. We're just calling you. And I said, and I remember talking to somebody going, well, maybe I can teach them to protect themselves. Like, I changed it in my mind.
Yeah.
And what was so cool is it was just 2 guys that came in, and I had them come in. They said they came in, got on the phone. I said, guys, I want you to come in. I want you to bring your skates. And they go, skates? We're like, we're coming to like a fight gym. I said, and one of them said, like, do you have ice? I go, no, just bring your fucking skates. And I took, you know, the big thick mats that you find, like horse stall mats.
Yeah.
I bought a couple of those. I put them around a heavy bag. I had them put their skates on so they could stand on the hard rubber mat. And then I tied rope to the bag and they had to grab the bag like they had a jersey, yank it. And I was teaching them on their skates at a friggin' fire. It was crazy. Anyways, nothing to do with our
awesome. Yeah, that's so awesome.
I figured you would take that as a hockey player.
It's great. You know, it's not as much a part of the game. Like they're kind of trying to get rid of it, you know. But like I took boxing lessons after my first year of juniors, and the amount of confidence that I gained. And I wasn't a fighter. I didn't fight a ton. I did fight, but like not a ton, especially once I started getting my concussions. But like the amount of confidence you get just from like knowing, okay, like I at least know how to defend myself. Like maybe I'm not going to beat up the toughest guys on the ice, but like if somebody goes me, like I know what I'm doing and I'm competent. It's very empowering.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but knowing, I also think, you know, I think it's a guy thing genetically, but I would like to think it's a human. I use phrasing like we are human weapons, and we need to understand our human weapon capacity and potential, and everyone, male or female, has the right to defend themselves, of course, but you know, Victorian values and social conditioning and certainly the last few decades of, you know, what they've done even to masculinity, you know. I mean, you're a toxic male, dude.
I know I am.
Right? You know, you're in shape, you're confident, you teach people to go after shit. I mean,
I open doors for women. I'm a toxic male, man.
Me too, man.
It's a bad world holding doors open.
Yeah. So the it's crazy. I lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you something really interesting there, and I lost my train of thought because I'm reading a crazy long. Let's do a quick pivot here and see if you can help me answer this. Guy Michael Warren asked this question online here. I'll let you read that, guys. I'll read it for everybody who's on not on video because this goes out on Apple and Spotify just as an audio as well. Guys, Michael Warren says, guys, I totally relate to the mentality of success relating to positive thinking, neurofeedback advantage. Would you please apply your skill set to technology transfer theater? I believe we can address this challenge with your organic methodology. My reading is horrible today. In order to overcome the obstacles of current DoD entrenched methodology, which slows down and prevents velocity of cutting edge innovation to the warrior. Michael, holy shit.
You got to define technology transfer theater to me.
Yeah. And if you're still there, I'm trying to summarize this in my mind, and I probably should have read it a couple more times because I don't have a good answer, Michael. And I don't know if there's a way to ask you to explain it better. And what I'm thinking here is simply this. So we have a gunfighting course, but it's not a shooting course. The assumption when you go to our gunfighting course is that you know how to shoot. In other words, the technology transfer is this: I can push this button and do this. I can have this drone do this. I'm interpreting this. I might be way offline here. It's like artificial intelligence doing stuff. But my whole thing is instincts, intuition, intelligence. Can I trust my hardwired instincts? Can I listen to and interpret my intuition? And the way we explain it is when I blend instincts and intuition and I use that to create my next decision, that's intelligence. And so I look at any technology that I've given, I want to understand, like your big sign, Jeff, what's your why? Why am I in this radar room? Why do I have this weapon in my hand? Why am I moving here and doing that? If I understand what's my why, then it's me actually manipulating this technology as opposed to, and there's an old expression that a guy from British SAS shared with me years ago when I was training some army dudes in the UK. And technology is always developing faster than we can train people. And so people aren't being taught, they're not being taught to kind of what your message is about when you're talking about how kids, like the professionalization of amateur sports. It's like, this guy might be a unicorn. He might be worth $1 billion. We got to get him doing this. And you coddle him and you protect him. He's not he or she's not becoming a good person per se in terms of the organic evolution. We're just interested in them as a racehorse.
Yeah, yeah, and then you're kind of like using them like with a remote control versus them making their own decisions.
Right. And so, Michael, maybe I'm way offline here, but it's this whole idea of if we teach people how to be good people, and then we augment like that goodness with a skill set, even if it's a firearm or even if it's, artificial. And like, a lot of people are panicking about the chat GPT, right? And the artificial intelligence. Well, if you're a scumbag, you're going to use it. I've used it and tested it where I'm like frustrated. Like, I'm so subjective. I'm trying to rewrite a part of my website. I copied it, put it into chat GPT. It's my words. I go, hey, it's me, it's Tony. Make this more user-friendly. I'm too nerdy. And it comes out with something that like is more 8th grade. And I go, fuck, this is great. But it was my, right? Like, it was like, I don't need an ad to sell to me. I'm the owner of the company.
Right.
I like using words like pedantic and obsequious, but nobody's going to fucking buy shit with those words. Right.
Right. Oh, that's a great coaching little nugget right there too. Something that I've learned. I use like a lot of funny cues in the gym because I've found that like funny cues, everyone remembers. If I say break a pencil between your butt cheeks when they're doing a plank so that they have their glutes involved in the plank, which increases stability, they all remember that, right? Or like there's $100 bill between your cheeks. Don't lose it. The wind's blowing. Like they get that, versus me saying, anteriorly tilt your pelvis and yada yada yada. Like nobody resonates with that. You got to dumb it down.
I dig that, and your sense of humor is great. And I love that you keep it in your videos. You're not,
I'm me.
Me.
Cancel me if you want.
Yeah. Hey, I want to be mindful of your time. Usually these are 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes we go an hour and a half. What's your hard stop?
I got about 10 to 12 more minutes if that's cool with you.
So let's do this. Michael, message me offline if I didn't even come close to that on that answer. I just want to scan here, made some notes. You're a passionate athlete and you do all the stuff that you tell people to do. Like, you're not sitting on a chair going, guys, check out this YouTube, like you do it. But here's the question. When did you realize, or have you realized, that you're a better coach than you are an athlete? And that doesn't mean you're not a world-class athlete.
Oh yeah. I realized that pretty quick. Better coach than athlete, I'd probably say it honestly, my first couple years coaching, my first year I sucked. Reflection, thought I was good because I knew a lot. But
because you were a trainer then, you weren't a coach yet.
Yeah, exactly. And so I started my company after my 3rd year pro. I played 10 years. So I would only come home from wherever I was playing, whether it was in the US or overseas. I would come home and I would start my company up. And then when I'd leave 3 to 4 months, 5 months later, however long my off season was, I'd shut it down until the next off season. And I look back to how I was coaching in the beginning, and I was absolutely embarrassing. I was using, like I just said, like things that I knew made sense, but it didn't make sense to the couple of clients I had. I had very few clients when I started. I had to build my business up from scratch. So I'd probably say around year 3 is when I realized, holy shit, I can help a lot of people. Especially back then, it was only hockey, and I was holy shit, because the couple of kids that I did have got so much better over the course of the summer, from not just physically, but also, like I said, I try and constantly incorporate like mindset, mentality, just like how you should live if you want to achieve a goal, not if you kind of want to achieve a goal. If you tell me you want to achieve blank, I'm going to give you a roadmap of a way that will definitely make you more successful, get you closer to that goal than the way you're living now. There's zero doubt in my mind. And then it's kind of up to them to execute on that. So I'd probably say like year 2 or 3, but like for sure better than my career. Like I can help like guys making $1 million go to like 3 million. That was probably like year 5.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting. Like it's not it's like another chapter where some people might go, fuck, I didn't make it, I guess I'll do this. And I use this example here, guys. At the time that I came up with this concept, there were something like 16,000 pro boxers in the US, registered pro boxers. And I said, this is very controversial and irritating to some people, but I would ask them, I go, there's 16,000 pro boxers at this time. This is like 20 years ago. I don't know what it is now. Registered people who fight. And I said, name 10. And most people couldn't name, right? You would name Marvin Hagler or Hearns or Leonard, like whoever the top 3, 4. But you couldn't even name number 3 or 4 in another division. And I remember saying, why don't more boxers make it? Because they all have coaches in gyms. And this is when I was mentoring coaches, which I still do. That's my main thing, is like train trainers. And I tell them, you're going to get this trainer designation, but you don't want to be a trainer. Trainers like, move, like here's a hook grip. Here's, put your feet like this. Try and go a little bit wider. Run faster, right? And I years ago I said, like coaching isn't cheerleading. Screaming at someone, come on, man, you got it. Give me 110%. There's no such thing as 110%, right? I tell people coaching isn't cheerleading. Coaching is understanding fear and psychology, because the only thing that's holding back an athlete is what's they're not telling you in their mind, which comes back full circle to what your parents did. And what I think is one of your most important messages is you need to develop the emotional, psychological posture to stand up for yourself.
Yes.
And what this boxing thing is I said, here's my theory on why more boxers don't make it. Because we only know the top 2 or 3 in the division we follow, but we don't know a lot of other people. I said, because they're being trained by boxers who didn't make it. So the same mindset that didn't have them make it is being shared in the gym.
Yep.
There's a different level of work ethic. So I think it's interesting here, because there were people that could say, Jeff, well, you didn't make it. Well, no, you did. You played professional on teams all over the world, but you realized somewhere, and that's why I think you're happy and you're effective and you're successful, because I realized for me, I love when people's face lights up when I teach them that they can protect themselves. I love that more than anything. Yeah. I love that more than the time I lost a fight, and I love that more than the time I won a fight.
Right. It's very similar to me when I can help someone else. So what happened in my career, quickly synopsis. So I was playing for Western Michigan University. I was one of the last guys to get my scholarship, obviously. I go in there, I play the most as a freshman on the team as a forward, like the most, despite being one of the last guys picked. The team and the coaches unanimously voted me the captain as a sophomore. And in hockey, that's almost always a senior. And I was a sophomore. So, like I said, leadership and all that. I had opportunities to sign and leave school after my sophomore year in the NHL, which reflecting back, I probably should have. Decided to stay one more year and try and help the university keep going in the right direction, because we had a great year. So after my junior year, I signed with the Boston Bruins. I leave school early. I do really well at the end of the season, playing for their AHL team for a couple months. They're like, oh, yeah, you're going to play in the NHL, blah, blah, blah. I come home. First time I'm skating a couple months later, I fall into the boards going full speed. I was unconscious. I lost 12 to 24 hours of my memory. I was mangled for I didn't play hockey game again for 15 months. Thought my career was over, all this stuff. And so going through that and turning down a huge insurance payout to just even try to play again. I'll never be covered for concussions again if I turn down this insurance payout, which I did because just getting one game. I worked my whole life. One game, That's all I want, and luckily I got to play 9 more years. But what that fueled in me was I never got to ultimately like I wanted to make $10 million playing the NHL for 10 years. I didn't get to do that. I got to have a great career compared to 99.9% of other people, but I didn't get to achieve my ultimate goals. I think a lot of people look back on those situations and they turn to drugs or alcohol and regret and poor me and blah, blah, blah. And I look at it the opposite way. Like, I'm so proud of what I was able to accomplish.
Right.
Obviously I didn't accomplish my ultimate goal, but life happened, shit happened. So now for me, anytime I can help anyone achieve any goal, it fills this hole in me where like I didn't get to achieve my ultimate goal. So every time I help anyone achieve anything, whether that's in an entrepreneurial journey, because I coach coaches too, or if it's getting one of my guys a bigger contract or making a team or scoring the amount of points that they wanted to score this next season. Like, that's the shit that lights me up. That's what I live for, helping people reach their goals. And that's everything to me.
Yeah. And I'm glad you picked up on what I was getting at there.
Yeah.
There
I totally know what you're saying. It's
and
it's kind of addicting. It's really cool to help somebody else achieve something, especially if it's something that maybe they didn't think they could or other people didn't think they could. I love that one.
Yeah. And that's the big push with me with the whole no fear thing, is that I realize that whatever you want to do, if you can't change your relationship with fear, that's going to change your potential at anything you do. So that's our big push.
How much of that too is fear of failure? Like, yeah. I think that's the biggest thing ever. I was talking to somebody today that I'm mentoring about changing careers and stuff like that. And she's just asking me all these questions on Instagram. And the bottom line was like, you can tell she's afraid to like fail at switching careers and stuff. And I'm like,
right.
Look, like you got to change that mindset, because failure, it's cliche. The only failure is not trying.
Right.
You only live once. You're going to be 90 looking back, regretting everything that you didn't try because you were worried about messing up. I mess up every single day. I suck at stuff every day because I know that the sooner I mess up and suck and fail, quote unquote, the sooner I'm going to be better, because I'm going to immediately learn how to do it a little bit better. And then I'll do it tomorrow and I'll be a little bit better, but I'll probably still suck, and I'll get a little bit better and a little bit better. And it'll just keep going until all of a sudden I'm nasty at it.
Yeah.
That's been my life.
100%. Talk to me. Do you have, like, when fear shows up in your life, how fast is a switch? I mean, does it obviously, I mean, this is, like if it's something, using what you just said about failure, if there's fear on something that you already have some experience with, come on, man, let's fucking go.
Yes. I've always been somebody, especially after my bad concussion, like to start my career, I was so grateful to have a second chance. Nobody thought I was going to play again. I didn't think I was going to play again for like a long time, like 9 months. I did nothing. I'd go in the grocery store. I could only be in there 4 minutes before I'd puke or get lost. Literally, I'd get lost. It was terrible. I was mangled. I saw doctors 4 to 6 days a week, every single week for like 6 to 8 months. It was crazy. Yeah. And like some of the best doctors in the world. And so for me, practicing gratitude is massively important, because then you get perspective. When you get perspective, you're like, oh, if I fail at this thing I'm trying, I can try it again tomorrow and I'll be better. So perspective is everything. But for me, I recently actually read this book called RSF, Relentless Solutions Focus. I pump it on every podcast I go on because I love it. I was already living this way, but not with as much intention or as mindful of doing it. It was a guy who was a sports psychologist for the Cardinals in the MLB when they won the World Series in the mid 2000s, I believe. And basically what the book said, the whole book is literally about give yourself 60 seconds when you hit a problem or you're nervous or you have fear about something. You have 60 seconds to like think about what's one thing I'm going to do right now to make the situation better. And so it's just like immediately one thing. It doesn't have to solve the problem. It's basically like a get the ball rolling type of thing. And ever since I read that book like 6 or 8 months ago, I've been on a whole nother fucking level. So a problem comes my way in daily life. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what it is. And I'm like, bam, what's one thing I can do? And my fiance sometimes gets mad at me because ever since I read that book, we'll go on walks and she'll be telling me about problems or something in her business. And I'm like, you got 60 seconds, one thing, give me one thing. And sometimes she's like, Jeff, females sometimes just want to talk it out. And I'm like, no, that's not how my brain works. Let's make this situation
Right.
better. One step right now. So that book has really helped me. And it's like people are so afraid because whatever the obstacle is that they're afraid of or a thing that they're worried about, they see it as this like really long thing where it's like if you just take that first step, it's kind of like the snowball at the top of the hill. It seems small, but then that gets you to the next step. And before you know it, that snowball is massive and it's picking up inertia and it's going down the mountain and you're golden. You're not even thinking about it anymore.
It's in that simple example, it's no different than getting out of bed, doing that first push-up, taking that first step, create some momentum.
Yep. I love it.
I love it, dude. Okay. Out of respect for your time, I know you got a busy afternoon and stuff like, dude, it's so good to meet you in person finally.
Yeah. An honor. Seriously, an honor. I'm a massive proponent for the military. Everything that I know you do and have done for them is absolutely amazing. You know, I work with veterans every Sunday. Every Sunday I donate, an hour of my time, however many want to come into my gym. I put them through workouts and stuff. Most of them are disabled mentally or physically. And because of my PTSD that I had and all my concussions, I vibe with that tribe. So I appreciate everything you've done for America, man. Even though you're Canadian, I still like you.
I'm an American citizen now, dude.
Okay. All right.
Look at the flag there. Moved here.
I see it.
I would like to give something back to you on two levels. One, any Sunday, let me know. I'd love to come on and do a talk on our fear management. We do one of my team is a professional psychologist on the East Coast, and he uses our fear management stuff to help vets with PTSD.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so there's some stuff that we do that's very, very effective.
Yeah.
And also anytime with your athletes, just to give like another perspective, as much as they love you, hearing another subject matter expert talk about fear, little light bulb goes off. It just creates momentum. So just make that happen. And I'm happy to donate my time.
Dude, thank you so much. I'll get all my guys. I train a lot of guys. I'll get them all in this gym. I'll put you on the TV. That'll be sick.
Let's do it now.
Hell yeah.
I'm in.
Thank
okay.
You.
Is there anything that you wished I'd asked you that you wanted to talk about?
I guess the only thing I will say, since we're talking about like veterans and stuff like that, I have online training. Some of it's for athletes, like hockey players specifically. And then, I have an online training team. I just changed the name of it to Give More, Be More. But it's my own personal workouts. I built it up over the last 2 years. It started with 0 people, obviously. And today I think we had 207 or 210 people that are on the team. Nice. Most of the people, there's a lot of people from day one, and it's kind of training a little bit more athletically, kind of in between media and athletically. It's a good blend. So any veterans, first responders, teachers, doctors, people like that, I give them 50% off for life. And if for some reason you lost your job and you're down and you can't afford it, just DM me and I'll give you it for free for life too. I just want to help that population as much as I can.
I love it. Elisa, let's stick Jeff's website up there, his information up there, please, so people know where to go. And that's just you're mostly on Instagram, right?
Yeah, Instagram. That's where I push everybody to. I've got a link tree and all that stuff.
Yeah. Cool. What else? Okay, man. We'll push that out. I know I've got most of our followers are that community. So, guys, there's so much. I just actually did a post on this over the weekend that your trained self is always going to be better than your untrained self. And so fucking start training, even no matter where you're at, if you're in shape or out of shape, you will always be a better version of yourself when you're training.
100%. And somebody who's had quite a few traumatic brain injuries and a little bit of PTSD and stuff, there's zero doubt in my mind that when I am taking care of myself physically, I am way better in every single area of my life. It's not the mind and the body are disconnected. They're very much connected. And the more that you show your body love, the more your brain's going to love you back.
Love it. Okay, man. I'm gonna let you go. Hang on 1 second while we log off. I'll let the files pop up there, and I'll speak to you offline in a sec. Okay, guys. Everybody who's listening, please share this. Tag your friends. Again, we're trying to get more diverse guests on here, but you'll see the common thread is people overcoming fear and adversity and becoming that best version of themselves, as cliche as that sounds. And we'll see you on the next show.